So I want to start on the racial profiling, kind of, I guess, a little bit of controversy right now with activists and stuff. You had denied that your officers engage in racial profiling.
Yeah, there's really no controversy. There's a difference of opinion. I'm of the opinion that we need to go further into the data, and we're actually in the process of doing that right now. We have met with representatives from Race Matters Friends to try to ferret out what their concerns were and how we might come to a logical conclusion of what we can do to do better. And so that's where it is.
Difference of opinion. A lot of people we've talked to, and it seems like a lot of people in the black community have that difference of opinion. Do you have, I mean, how do you?
It's different opinion. It's just a different opinion.
Well, I mean,
yeah, everybody's entitled to one, including me, and mine just happens to be different.
Yeah, I mean, they've told us stories, and I mean, obviously they've talked about in public even the bad experiences they've had with law enforcement in the past. Even including some with CPD. So you're still of the mind that your officers don't engage in profiling?
No, like I said from the very beginning, I don't think the AG's numbers go far enough. They ask for just very basic information. We provide very basic information that I'm of the opinion sometimes is not conclusive. So my opinion is that we need to look further into the data and determine whether or not we do have a problem. I don't think as a department we have a problem. I don't deny that it's a possibility that we have an officer that's out there maybe using race as a method to police, but I have no proof of it, and I think that's the difference of opinion.
So how are you going further?
Like I just said, we've already met with Race Matters Friends. We're looking into individual officers' numbers that have a high disparity index. We're doing what I said we should be doing, which is going further into the data.
So can we be any more specific, looking at specific officer stuff?
No, not at this point, because it's
spotting or anything like that?
Not at this point. I'm not going to be any more specific. We're looking into it. We'll continue to look into it. Where it will stop, I can't tell you.
Are you plotting stuff on a map or looking at time of day?
We're doing all kinds of stuff.
Anything else?
We're doing all kinds of stuff.
A little bit more specific, other than just looking into it?
No, not at this point. We're early on. It's still early.
I mean, what else do you think the vehicle stops report should include?
Well, I think it should go into, rather than just this many white drivers, this many black drivers, it should look at where the officer works. It should look at the hours of the day the officer works. It should look at whether or not those calls were related to a call for service or not, because it doesn't make a lot of sense if you go to a call and the suspect or the individual that's being looked for in that call is a white male, so you shouldn't be looking for black males. That's just logical stuff. And if you go deeper into the data and find out, I think you can determine whether or not an officer has an issue with using race as a method of policing. And so you have to go much further into the data, and that's what we're trying to do.
Do you know what would be some of the flags that you're looking for in that data?
No, not at this point.
Not
at this point. We're still just getting started, and when we get finished with it, we'll be happy to put it out there.
Got any idea how long? I mean, I know you don't put times on investigations or anything like that, or anything, but
don't know how long it's going to take us, because I don't know how deep we're going to have to go into the data.
Who's actually doing
our crime analyst, Jerry East.
Okay. And then so you look at the numbers in the vehicle stops report for 2015. Even we've looked at them since going back to 2000 when it started, and mostly some of the, so in 2015 disparity index for black drivers compared to white drivers a little over 3 over the last 5 years. I can't read my own handwriting. Overall, 23.37% of all the drivers stopped are black. Obviously higher than their proportion for the population. You have 50.5% of investigative stops are black drivers, 44.3% of total searches, and 43% of total arrests are black drivers. Obviously, those are a lot higher than the, I think, 11 or 12% in the city. And I know we've talked about the stops report, but what do you say to people, or how do you explain those numbers?
I don't at this point. We're going to look into the data further.
Is there anything else on that?
Nope.
You can't.
Not at this point.
Be more specific about it.
When we won't know how deep we need to go until we get there. But I can assure the public is that we are going to go into it deeper. We are going to look at it. We're going to try to determine whether or not we have an issue, and we're going to use deep analysis of the data to do that.
When did that analysis start?
Probably 3 weeks ago, maybe.
And you're gonna make it publicly available when it's done?
Sure. It'll be an open record, I'm sure.
What have your meetings and conversations with Race Matters Friends and other activist groups kind of focused on?
We actually discussed data. We met with the lady that has a data background, and we kind of explained to her how we kept data and what we had available, and just answered some questions. I actually met with the group, and then we had a follow-up meeting with this lady that does their data analysis, and she met with Assistant Chief Gordon and with Jerry East. And so that was a couple of weeks ago.
In talking with other people in law enforcement, and everyone has an implicit bias, some people say. And do you guys have, you do training, cultural sensitivity training here, or do you guys have any kind of training to try to reduce any implicit biases that people might have?
Yeah, we've talked about this before. We have procedural justice training, put all of our supervisors through procedural justice training, and that was training we sought from the Department of Justice. They came here and provided that training, I believe it was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. And we put all of our supervisors through it. We intend to have all officers go through that very training as provided by the Department of Justice. Procedural justice is treating people, basically reminding people that you need to treat people like you'd want to be treated. And it encourages officers to look at the human side of people at first. And sometimes members of the criminal element won't let you do that. Okay, by their actions, they're causing a police reaction. But it encourages officers to try to see the human side of people and remember that you're dealing with human beings. And it's really just common sense stuff. But hearing it from somebody besides us, I think is valuable to the officers, and that's why we applied.
I guess going back to implicit bias and the line of thinking that we may all have some kind of bias, and you think that could lead to officers being more, assertive in trying to find PC, probable cause. To search minority drivers or pull more blacks or Hispanics over.
What do you think? That's the kind of question it is. Yeah, I think it's possible.
Very likely it probably happens all over the place.
Right. I think that human beings naturally have biases that they don't recognize that they have. So once you acknowledge that, you have to acknowledge the possibility that we might have an officer out there that is using that implicit bias they don't even recognize they have as they police. It's very difficult to try to prove that or disprove it. And that's been my contention from the beginning is you can't just look at the AG numbers and make conclusions based on those. You've got to recognize, and even the AG says, if you read the whole report, that this should be a basis for a conversation. It's not conclusive to any stretch of the imagination. So what we're trying to do is look at it deeper and solve the problem and work with the stakeholders, which I include groups like Race Lives Matter and those folks that are very interested in it. And I invited them here and they came and we're working on it.
Do you think right now, vehicle stops report has any value at the time?
Yeah, as a conversation starter. As a conversation starter, just like the AG says.
And let me see it. Traffic stops overall have gone down a lot.
We're busy.
25,000 down to 10,000 or 11,000, I think, in the last couple of years.
We're busy.
Is it strictly just?
Yeah, when officers have discretionary time, they go out and they look for people to stop and things like that. When they're going call to call to call, it's very difficult for them.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, or was it a month or so ago, when you stood up with Mary Ratliff and Lorenzo Lawson, and there was that contention where they were saying that CB does engage in racial profiling, but you're adamant that your officers do not. What did you think of that situation? Why do you think you have these two people or black community leaders speaking out and saying things like that?
I don't know. I can't speak to why they spoke what they spoke to, but I've answered this question multiple times. And the simple matter is that people look at data and they're going to have different opinions about it. That's how I explain it.